My whole life, I always knew I was special. Even with no remainders, I could always move a decimal. Money on my mind while the girls that made un beso. Hustlers in my blood and it's running through my vessels. Just trying to clear the threshold, just trying to make a way. In my race against time, I could see an early grave. School to prison pipeline, 12 years a slave. Suspension and detention is conditioned for a cage.
The next topic we're going to discuss on Boxing Bros is where does Jermell Charlo rank on your pound for pound list? And we're going to go back to Mike Carpenter's list and use that as somewhat of a guide. Now, we're planning on doing an episode where we officially give our pound for pound list, our personal pound for pound list, and the Boxing Bros pound for pound list. But this ain't that episode. We're just going to go through this real quick. So here's Mike Carpenter's list. I'm going to turn over you, Conspiracy G. Where would Jermell Charlo rank on your list?
All right. So, well, this list doesn't even really make sense to me. So we're going to look at the ESPN one. Let me see. Yeah, let's go down to the ESPN one. I think that might be more.
No. No.
All right. So can we first establish how we going to rate the list? I know y'all about to get mad at me, but walk with me on this. Are we saying if all of these gentlemen were in the same weight class based upon their skills, who I feel would be like the best versus the least in the top 10?
I think it's that plus accomplishments.
All right. So because because like usually if it's accomplishments, then I would say he'll anyway would have to get dropped. Bivol will clearly get dropped. I think Shakur would get dropped. He could, you know what? Where would I put him? I would say I would probably have him like either like 6 or 7. You know what I mean? Because it'd be like Usyk, let me see, Canelo. I'll have Spence up there as well. I'm not a huge fan of having Tyson Fury on there, but
it's your list, brother. So take them off there.
Yeah, because if we're talking about accomplishment, but now if we're talking about skill, I'll keep Tyson Fury on there. You know what I'm saying? So I'll do.
How's Tyson Fury not on there for accomplishment? He accomplished more than a lot of the people I see on that list.
Man, I'm just saying as of right now. Well, you know what? You're actually all right. I can't even hate on him. My man has won every belt. So
yeah.
You know what? All right, man. Hey, man, listen, man. You know, that's my bias coming in. But all right, I'll keep Tyson Fury on that list. Lomachenko will go down. Yeah, so you know what? He could possibly be in a like 5 or 6 for Charlo, like right now, be 5 or 6 for you know, becoming the first undisputed, you know what I mean? Yeah, so I'll say 5 or 6 if it's based off of accomplishment, but if it's based upon skill, I have to be honest, man. Like defensively, he does take a lot of shots, and so you know that's kind of a problem for me. So skill wise, I think Shakur Stevenson skill wise is better than Jermell. To be honest, Lomachenko I think is skill wise is better. Usyk skill wise is better. Spence I think is better than him skill wise. TC's better than him skill wise. Inouye's better than him skill wise. You know, so if it was based upon skill, I probably had Jermell Charlo maybe number 10 or number 9 on the pound for pound list. But if it's all accomplishments, they'll be like probably 5 or 6.
So you have them 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
All right, $1 bill.
I think he got an argument for 7, 8, 9, and 10. I think that's what he got an argument for those last 4 spots. I think that my top spot, you know, no order at all. You know, I got Usyk, I got Canelo, I got guys like Earl and Crawford and Inoue, and even Lomachenko, because people forget all the accomplishments that Lomachenko had in going from different divisions and becoming a champion, and how short of time he became champion as a pro here. And the things that he did, and then you want to write him off after one loss against Teofimo Lopez, which was a tough fight, which he was coming back in. And now y'all want to write him off like, after one bad day, like he hasn't been trying to go up weights and different weights and stuff. Like, we know 135 was a big weight for this guy, you know what I'm saying? And he was going up and he was doing these things. So I definitely got Lomachenko up there. But as far as 7, 8, 9, 10 goes, yeah, he got an argument for those spots.
All right, TVE.
I would say, I would put him over Bivol, and I would drop Shakur Stevenson. Even though Shakur just became champion, he still has more to prove. When Charlo is now undisputed, so that's a big accomplishment. So I'll go 10 Estrada, 9 Bivol, 8 Charlo. Well, I'll probably leapfrog him over Vasily, because Vasily, even though he's been on a terror, he still got to get his belts back to prove that he's still up there with the top pound for pound guys. So I go Vasily at 8, Charlo at 7, and then I would switch up the top. But yeah, he would fall in at 7.
I'm just gonna give you this may cause some ruckus, but I'll explain how I do mine in a second. Number 1 for me is Usyk. Self-explanatory, undisputed at cruiserweight, unified champion at heavyweight. Currently 1 belt away from being undisputed at heavyweight, should be self-explanatory. Number 2 is Canelo. Canelo's been doing this for years. People forget Canelo's only 31 years old. He's been doing it for so long, fighting the best. He moved up in weight and he took a L. Now, here's a very important way, or a very important thing very important criteria for me and how I score pound for pound. A loss isn't a death sentence on my pound for pound list.
Thank you.
Because some of these wins that people are getting credit for aren't really that great. And I'll give you an example. Canelo lost to Dimitri Bivol, and that's supposed to take him off the pound for pound list. When he was moving up in weight, after he cleaned out a division in less than a year, moved up in weight to challenge arguably the number 1 guy at that division, who's taller than him, who weighs more than him, and who has a longer reach than him. But Shakur Stevenson catapults into the pound for pound list for beating Oscar Valdez, which I don't even think it's the same risk. I don't even think it's the same quality of opposition. And I'm not saying this to down Shakur Stevenson. I'm just making a point that Canelo took a greater risk, had already accomplished more than Shakur. So why is he supposed to be penalized significantly and reduced significantly for taking a challenge that, if we're all being honest, it was going to be difficult for him to win? Now, Canelo was number 1 on my list, so he does drop to 2, but he's still done more than every other fighter, still accomplished more than every other fighter on the list in terms of accomplishment. So, when you brought up skill, right? Canelo's as skilled as anyone on that list. And he's more accomplished than anyone on that list. So if you go by any metric, he's up there. And Usyk, as skilled as anyone on that list. And very accomplished for his weight, because it's not like he's coming from the lower weight divisions. There was only 1 division for him to go up to, and he's done that. And he's came champion at that. So when you talk about accomplishments and you talk about skill, to me, Usyk and Canelo are the top 2 guys on that list.
Yeah, agreed.
So for me, Usyk's 1, Canelo's 2. Now, number 3 for me is Jermell Charlo. And yes, I got him that high, and I'm going to explain to everyone why. Because the quality of opposition that he's faced, he collected the titles. And the way he beat the guys for the titles was impressive. Look at the fight Erickson, Lubin, and Fonfonda just had. Right?
Arguably fight of the year.
Yeah, Jermell cooked Lubin. Cooked him.
But yeah.
Trill's like,
Did it not happen?
No, bro. I'm letting you shout.
I'm saying, did it not happen?
No, it definitely. But he was a baby.
That's the argument people use to discredit Floyd beating Canelo. He was a fighter, and he was a really good fighter. And he didn't think he was a baby in the buildup. And to me, if Fonfonda did that to him, my money's still on Charlo to knock him out. And even if he was a baby, Castano wasn't. And look what he just did to Castano. Look at what he did to Tony Harrison. Look at what he did to Jason Rosario. Like, this guy isn't just beating them. He's beating them in impressive fashion. So, I hear what you're saying, G. Defensively, he takes risks that open him up and he gets hit with shots, but that was the Castano fight. And I think he was forced into fighting that type of fight. So for me, he's number 3. Now, number 4 is a tie for me. And I'm going to explain why, and then I'll break it down. Number 4 is a tie between Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. And when they fight each other, they will move up. But unlike everyone else, I'm not prepared to say, oh, Spence is the best in the division or TC, because I don't know. This is a 50-50 fight. And I would love to see them fight each other so I can know. But until I know, I thought about just removing them both from the pound-for-pound list until they fight each other. Because for me, I'm just being real, because for me, we're rewarding every time TC fights someone, we reward him for fighting less than the best.
No, that's what I was about to go with. I was about to say, but don't you feel like Earl has fought the best at 147 and winning to collect more medals?
That's true. Minus TC.
Even being through the adversity he's been through outside the ring. I know outside doesn't count. But coming back and fighting and Danny right after being in that, not shelling off and fighting like a Riverside Rocky or nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm looking at resumes as far as resumes is concerned. But I get what you're saying.
Guys. Here's the one thing I will say though. TC, I don't think had the access to those guys we named that Errol Spence had because he was with Bob Arum. So like, although we talk about like the across the street thing, I'm not saying that it's as relevant as they try to make it seem. But I think if you're Al Heyman and you got to feed Danny to someone and you got to feed Sean to someone and you got to feed Ugas to someone, why not feed them to your guy first? So, I will take that into consideration. And my whole thing with this is the Terrence Crawford contingent, because I do agree with you. Spence has been fighting the better opposition. It's just there's one strap left. Make it happen. So for me, until they fight each other, I'm almost for removing both of them for the pound for pound list until they make it happen. But because I can't do that, I'm tying them at 4. But I believe Jermell Charlo's over them because he's actually undisputed at his weight class that he's currently in, and he fought the best to do it. TC hasn't been There's been another undisputed champion at 140 since TC's been there, so he's not even the most recent undisputed champion at 140. So that's how old news TC's undisputed is. How long does TC get to hang on to that? All right. And number 5, I got Vasily Lomachenko. And that's as far as I'm going for now. But the reason why is I think Vasily Lomachenko was number 1 pound for pound until he lost to Teofimo Lopez. Then when he lost to Teofimo Lopez, people just went so far as to take him out of the list. How do you go from being number 1 to being taken off of a list? Because you took a risk. And if that's what we're going to do in boxing, the best are never going to fight the best. Because what happens when you fight the best is your value diminishes so much. People are talking about, oh, Canelo can't be number 2. Why not? He ain't losing no bum. He lost to a champion that's bigger than him. Went up and fight him, no tune-up. Vasily Lomachenko lost. He ain't losing no bum. He fought someone who was bigger than him. In a title unification fight for undisputed, whatever way you want to go, I'm not arguing. But my point is, Why are we penalizing people for giving us greatness, for trying to make great fights, for trying to make historic fights, for trying to do historic things? That doesn't make any sense. It's counterproductive to what we want to see. None of those guys they put on that list, real quick, let me throw it back up, has a resume better than Vasily Lomachenko. Let me throw this back up real quick, fellas, and then I'm done. Juan Francisco Estrada doesn't have a better resume. Shakur Stevenson, Dimitri Bivol doesn't have a better resume. All right. And we got my take on Earl Spence, Terrence Crawford, although I have them above. But my point is these guys below, they don't have a better resume than Vasily Lomachenko. They don't. So, you know, when we do these lists, sometimes I think a loss weighs too heavy and people aren't factoring in the quality of that loss. I do that. Like I said, every loss isn't the same. You lose to a bum. Even Josh Taylor's not. Oh, sorry. That's what I want to point out. I'm sorry. Let me point this back out again. Josh Taylor's not on this list. How in the hell is Josh Taylor not on this list?
I know.
What has Juan Francisco
top rank?
Yeah. What has Juan Francisco Estrada done to be ranked over Josh Taylor? What has Shakur Stevenson done to be ranked over Josh Taylor? What has Dimitri Bivol done to be ranked over Josh Taylor? Because he had one bad outing against Catterall and he even got the decision. And even if he lost that fight, that's one L. Wasn't Catterall his mandatory?
I know Francisco Estrada got 3 L's.
If
I'm correct, I think he got 3 L's.
I know he got L's. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know he got a victory he didn't deserve over my man Chocolate Tito.
And he's a good little man, but
was brings me to this point.
Josh gets up over him. And Estrada's my guy. You know, I put him on my pound for pound last year when we did it.
Yeah, I feel you. But what I'm saying is this dude literally has Bivol as a top 4 guy. And he doesn't have this dude, Mike Carpenter. He doesn't even have Josh Heller on his pound for pound list. The dude is undisputed. Although we're getting into a topic where he's going to get stripped. But if I was him, I would let my belt go. After seeing what happened with Jack Catterall, I get a close decision. I get it. Some of you feel like I lost, but damn, now I'm not even pound for pound anymore. What am I fighting to keep all these belts for? This is what I'm talking about. We make it so that it's not even beneficial for people to want to chase greatness.
They dare to be great.
Let me just keep beating guys I know I can beat undefeated and stay number 3 on the pound for pound list. Now, you know what I mean? That's what it is. Why take risks? If I take a risk, then I'm going to dip to this is stupid. Man, that's why I don't respect these people's lists. Anyway, I'm done. That's my take on it.
That's people, they got to deal with this self inside. They got to deal with their inside. You know what I'm saying? That's
for real, for real.
Listen, give yourself a hug, a self hug. If you need it, give yourself, you know what I'm saying? Let us know how you feel in the comment section. Please like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. And please check out our podcast on all major streaming services. You see we cooking. It's the Boxing Bros.